the day that we firstly started the garden and brought the new studio in and the dirt and the planter boxes, I thought it was a really, really special day. It was as if it was something that was meant to be. And the reason for that is because we'd been working for 2 years on Future Canvas and developing really strong visions and thought and creating scenarios on ways that the urban environment could change and be a better place from a sustainability perspective. And anyway, Future Canvas, the logo is a rainbow. And that day, a rainbow came out. And I thought that was something like, it was the environment saying, we're happy about this garden being created on this concrete slab. Thank you very much. And it just sort of sinked in, and I thought that was a really lovely thing to happen after all of our hard work. Look at that! So the idea here is just to get as much green growing at the front.
Oh, good.
And then so at the moment, Urban Reforestation has got 2 physical spaces that we've created. One is an eco shop, an eco centre, where we run a lot of our workshops and also sell eco products. And the second place is the garden, which is a place which is open for people to come in and enjoy. And it's not a community garden where there's allotments and things. It's much more, I would say, inclusive than that, where anyone can come in and feel like they can pick some herbs and connect to that space and enjoy their lunch, sit in the garden and learn about, the fact that you can grow vegetables on a concrete slab, which is what it was initially. It was a concrete slab. This space, this green space, is soil and it is herbs and plants, but it's also a space where very interesting social projects can grow from. And some of those are, for instance, Corinne's French classes, or the series Food Connect program where we distribute local food boxes, or Chai Chai, who gives away free chai tea in the garden. And there's just, in the beginnings of our organisation, some examples of what the garden can grow.
So my name's Kristen.
And I'm Yamni.
And we're from Chai Chai. We are a brand new not-for-profit organisation based in Melbourne. And essentially what we do is we hand out iced lemon mint tea and Indian masala chai, as you might have guessed from our name, Chai Chai. So how we started was we began from a conversation between friends, which was pretty much about the difference between a chai latte, as you might have seen around Melbourne, and an Indian masala chai, so the authentic product, you might say. So we decided to find out one day what people would actually think of masala chai. So we got a small thermos and brought it to Brunswick Street in Melbourne. And we started handing out cups of tea, and we asked people what they thought of it. So they actually thought it was pretty amazing. We were quite happy with that. Our tea making skills were good, and also what they really liked was the fact that there were people in the street offering them hot drinks. It was very unexpected for them, and it really promoted this whole sense of community in a way which we were not expecting at all. So one of our volunteers met Emily from Urban Reforestation in June this year, and we were having a bit of a chat to her about what we do in terms of trying to bring people together, and she said it was very, very much in line with what Urban Reforestation's goals are, to bring people into a more kind of connected community, creating a space through this garden that they have where people know, their neighbours' names. Just a very simple idea like that, and it's very much what we're trying to do as well. Urban Reforestation does this through gardens and through gardening, and Chai Chai does this through hot drinks and tea, really. So it's quite a similar sort of set of goals.
The Docklands for me began, it's a part of Melbourne where I didn't go to too much, but I visited there in late 2008 when I came back from lots of research overseas into urban agriculture. And I saw this place as a place that has a lot of potential to create a model of a sustainable living an example of sustainable urban living. So from there, I will explain, I'll describe Docklands for you. It's very much full of a lot of commercial buildings at the current time, banks and corporations, and also high-rise apartments. And underneath, there's unfortunately not very much happening in the public space. You've got some really wonderful cafes that are popping up with great people doing their best to activate the public space, but really there's also a lot of concrete spaces and not very intimate surroundings. So when we saw the Docklands, we came across a concrete slab on the waterfront. And I think a couple of people that I know didn't believe that you could actually create a garden in such a place because of the wind. It's very windy in the Docklands, and it's also concrete. So how would you make a garden on concrete? And it's actually quite simple. You just struck in dirt and make planter boxes.
Hi, my name's Cindy. I work with Urban Reforestation. I actually look after more, I suppose, the business side. So I help out with business development. I also help with programming and events. So I'm probably not so much of a gardener. I try not to kill plants. I try and look after them, but sometimes kill them. This is really me, laptop and just waiting for a coffee. I have to have my coffee, probably about 3 cups a day. Without being harsh, I really hate the design of the Docklands. Hate it. I don't actually really like coming down to the Docklands because it's so concrete.
Docklands, I would suggest, is the epitome of urban, the idea of urban living, because it's very much, there's a very strong man-made layer on it. And I appreciate the layers from the past. For instance, the 30,000 years of Indigenous history there. It was a meeting place for people. So there's a very strong history in the Docklands. But currently, it's very, very urban.
What I think the garden brings is a sanctuary. I think it brings an element of peace where you can escape the concrete jungle and you can escape a bit of the bustle. And for me, it's a bit of a stress relief. If I'm feeling a bit stressed or worried, I go to the garden, I plant something, or I go and pick some mint to make some tea, and I just feel calmed. I think the garden is an important place for connection. I feel like you just see people meeting each other, people that haven't necessarily met. People just wander into the garden all the time, and even if I feel like a chat with people, I just walk down to the garden and know that someone will be there that I can chat with. And to me, I think that's really special because people don't generally chat to each other on the street, especially in Melbourne, because you're scared someone's going to ask you for money or they're homeless or something. So I think it's a really non-intimidating place to me.
There's a perception from Melburnians that it needs a soul, it needs something. And I think that really creating intimate spaces and urban agriculture and green spaces could be a really strong vision to put forward for the Docklands. And that's why we chose it. It was a place where you don't have a lot of people that are, there's not a really strong tight-knit community like some more established places, because it hasn't been there as long. So there was a need from a community development perspective to have a garden, but also from an urban design and landscape architecture perspective, because it needed greening and it needed intimacy. It needed the gaps in the Docklands need to be filled in. It's very open space. It's a blank canvas from a placemaking perspective or from a urban design perspective. There's lots of gaps to fill in, and that's why we landed there. Urban reforestation is simply put about greening cities, but it's not just as simple as that. It's very much involving people. So I always say it's about people and plants. It's not just the plants, it's also people. And you can't have plants without people growing them, particularly in an urban area. So I think that it's very much about people connecting to one another initially, so social sustainability, and then from there, that community of people, that people power, that creativity can turn into urban green spaces, because people take ownership of those green spaces and they become cultural hubs in a city that not just grow food but also host. You can have dinners, you can have eco markets, you can have education, workshops on sustainable living. You can do all sorts of things. You can even run French classes, which is something that we're doing at the garden. So it grows plants and it grows social innovation and culture. So Urban Reforestation connects with many other organisations because we believe that, you know, we don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel. The designer of the 21st century is someone who can facilitate a design process. So the designer of I'll say it again, the designer and designers of the 21st century are people who aren't a Giorgio Armani saying, we are creating this. They're actually someone who can facilitate a design process. So our team has connected in with many different organisations. For instance, Ceres Food Connect. So Ceres Food Connect basically distributes local food boxes across the city. So rather than Urban Reforestation creating that initiative, which takes a lot of energy and resources, we tapped into their initiative and now they distribute their food boxes from our site. And they are doing some wonderful work. They work with local farmers to get local food and they distribute that in the Docklands and many other parts of the city. There's lots of mothers who, with their kids who come to the garden on a Tuesday afternoon to pick up their food box and when I've been there, they say to me how grateful they are that they can get organic, local farm food, that they've actually got more choice now than going to the supermarket up the road, which doesn't get local food. A lot of the food is coming from all over the world and it's not organic either. So from a health point of view, they're really pleased that we're providing that service, and that's the hard work of the people at Ceres Food Connect.
Hi, I'm Doran. I'm the Enterprise Manager for Ceres Fair Food. So my role is to make sure we can get food boxes out to our customers and also look after the website and the marketing and everything related to that. So this is a Mercedes van that we're currently converting from petrol to electric. So this van will be used hopefully in a couple of months' time for making box deliveries. I mean, the idea is to build kind of a food hub. So the idea is to show that it's possible to grow food in an urban environment. So that's the aquaponic system we've got over there. And then also we're growing mushrooms on site. And then obviously we're also distributing food from local farmers as well.
Hi, so I'm Steve from Ceres and I work here as a designer on ecological design projects, and this is an aquaponic system. So what we have here are the first seedlings which are growing in water. It's a type of hydroponics, but instead of mined nutrients we have fish waste which we're cycling through these grow beds. This is only just being established, but eventually the entire system will be filled with about 4,000 plants. And the reason that you build an aquaponic system is because it's a very water efficient way of farming. So this uses about 1% of the water that you'd use in a traditional farm, and you also farm fish at the same time. We capture all of the water from the roof. The whole system is solar powered, and it's a very sustainable way of growing food in the urban context.
The main, I guess, objective for Ceres is education. So we get 300,000 school children coming through Ceres each year. And the idea is to educate kids about sustainability in the environment. And then there's a bunch of supporting projects that basically go into funding and keeping the park running, and one of them is Series Fair Food, which is what we do, which is an organic box delivery scheme. I mean, the ethos behind Fair Food is, I mean, there's a number of objectives, I guess, social objectives. One of them is to support local farmers, so support Victorian farmers anyway. And I guess on the customer end of it is letting our customers know where their food is coming from. Seems to be very important. So we don't do door-to-door delivery. So we drop off the food boxes at pickup points. So for instance, in the city and north inner suburbs, we've got 30 different pickup points, and then we drop the food boxes around there, and people come from locally or close by and pick up their food boxes.
Hi, I'm Jesse from Series Fair Food. We've just dropped off a load of boxes here outside the Urban Reforestation shop on Merchant Street in the Docklands. And now what happens is people will come who have pre-purchased their boxes online. They'll come to the shop this afternoon and pick up their fresh fruit and veg and take it home and enjoy it. I'm the food host coordinator with Series Fair Food, and what I do is I set up food hubs throughout the Melbourne area. Right now we've been operating for about 6 months, and we have around 35 different food hubs. What a food hub is like this one at Urban Reforestation, is a place that we've set up. We deliver the boxes to that people have ordered online. They come each week and pick up their orders from these food hubs. Most of our hubs are located in the CBD, in the inner northern suburbs, and in the new year we're moving into the southeast and the eastern suburbs and the further northeastern suburbs as well. The reason we do food hubs is we're trying to cut down the food miles, so getting less people driving as far, so we're delivering to people's neighborhoods so they don't have to drive to the market or the supermarket to get all their fresh fruit and veg. We're trying to supply this fresh fruit and veg for people in specific areas. So like this one, most of the customers will be in the Docklands area. And we have several others like that in the CBD and other suburbs throughout Melbourne. I have a food hub at my house. I'm located in Brunswick East. I have about 15 to 20 people come each week picking up their boxes. It's very easy. It's usually the same people that come, even though they're ordering online. And probably about 2/3 of the people are from the neighborhood, and another third are people who are driving by on their commute to or from work. It's a great way to meet people, and it creates a great atmosphere on my front porch.
I think urban sustainability is very, very strongly pivoted around strong stakeholder engagement and stakeholder relationships. And stakeholders are your residents and local business people, but they're also the people who have ownership over the land and govern the land. And they're also, in the case of the Docklands, relationships to build with the developers, the local council, and also organisations such as Vic Urban. Now, urban sustainability is integral. It relies on having these institutions strongly supporting social innovation, and there has to be a balance and an understanding of how these different organisations can work together to create outcomes for the community and for a better urban environment and a better society. And I think I'm saying this as a challenge. It's a challenge for cities, and the way if we want to have eco-cities, it's integral that we have strong frameworks that support social innovation projects such as urban reforestation, so they can grow and flourish to their potential. And there's some of the different characters and the different people involved with urban reforestation. Target 3008 is a project that aims to reduce waste in the docklands and is supported by the Victorian Government's Sustainability Fund. And they have been an amazing support to give this project legs and really enabling us to get some really meaty outcomes. Literally, we're finding lots of meat in the waste, but we're getting some really great outcomes from conducting waste audits in Dock 5 and waste audits in Victoria Point apartments. And what we're doing there is getting a benchmark of how much waste the residents are producing each week. And then we're coming up with strategies on how the residents in the apartments can reduce their waste. And because we have a community garden in the middle of the public space, a very simple way to reduce waste is through putting your food waste in a recycling bin. And that's something, the facility that we've got set up. And through our education program with Target 3008, we're able to get more people involved and engaged in this program. And I think when we finish this project, there's going to be a great example of how to address urban sustainability issues. And hopefully this project is a pilot to help enable and inspire other projects in other urban areas and cities around the world and around Australia to reduce their impact on the environment.
I'm Claire from Urban Reforestation, and basically what I'm hired for is waste auditing. And what we do in waste audits is we pull some waste out of a dumpster and sort it into categories. So here we'd put all the organics into one bucket, and then we'd fill it up, and then when it's full we'd weigh it on the set of scales. And we do that for all the different types of food, waste. So organics, recyclables, paper, into all the different categories, and then that will provide us with a background description of people's waste composition, and then we use that to tell us for our program Target 3008 how we can improve what people are doing with their waste. And what we're trying to do with Target 3008 is to get them to take their recycles and bring them down, not their recycles, sorry, their organics, and bring them down to the compost bin. And then we can compost it and put it into the garden and create, make things grow. Okay, so we'd sort it into categories. So these are organics, so we'd put them over there. Tea bags, food scraps. These would go into our paper pile. Coffee cups. Over there. Plastic lid would go into plastics. Paper. And these are all organics. And we found through our auditing so far that household waste is generally made up of 30% organics by volume, and that's quite considerable really when you think about how much that adds up to, and that it's just going to landfill at the moment. So by composting, you're cutting down on methane gas emissions, and you're creating a more sustainable way of living by growing your own food. Dock 5 had a really good setup. We were pretty impressed with it. They had a lot of separate bins, so they had the recycling set up, the bottles, cans, they had a Vinnie's bin, a paper and cardboard bin, but what's really missing is the organics. And we found through our sampling of the general waste that a third by volume was organics, but when you break it down by weight, it was more like 60%, because organics are small and dense.
I think that urban reforestation, it's a movement, and it's a way for people in real, authentic ways to address sustainability in their communities and have fun in the process. It's a cultural movement, and it's something that I've definitely enjoyed, and I think that there's a lot of people that have been involved with urban reforestation who say the same thing.
So you'll see people are coming down, putting their food scraps and other scraps in here. There's some paper as well.
Nathan, you should talk about waste.
Probably see some election material from the weekend, and there's various other materials in here. So it's not just plant food. And then at the other end, it turns magically into this all here.
Oh wow!
It's a nice. It's a bit of a whiff, but it turns into some nice compost. Probably needs a bit more of a breaking down there, I think. Some of the juices and that at the bottom would be nice.
Okay,
but you can see it literally breaking down here in front of the. Pick that up. So it's got quite a powerful smell, but you can't smell it unless this door's open. So you can have them in your backyard. The smell is quite aggressive. I think we might leave that to break down a little bit further. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if that doesn't do something for your veggies, nothing will. It's literally, the smell is literally like similar to sewage. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there are community gardens around the world that do use sewage and human waste for helping growing veggies, and it turns out to be a very powerful fertiliser.
You wrote a speech in Parliament on waste. What did you talk about?
Well, I mentioned earlier that Australia spends about $10 billion on wasteful items every year. That includes a lot of electronic gear, obviously, but on other items, you know, people might buy, you know, a wooden box that has a dollhouse or something. Now, rather than it going to landfill, doing something like this where it breaks down over the years and helps encourage growing something, is actually a good way to help end the cycle of waste.
So we're doing waste audits at the moment, and that's been funded by Sustainability Victoria, so thanks to the state government. And 30% of the waste that we found in the audit was food waste, and so we can divert a lot of that waste into the garden, and it's the building's just next door, so it's really close.
Now, I think what's important there is people just associate compost with veggie scraps and non-meat products, but meat can also be used as a good compost.
Yeah.
And if you put it down there, the worms love it, because you think about it, the worms, you know, when people themselves are putting it in the ground, the old adage is that you're worm food, but the worms do love a bit of nutrition that comes out of the meat, etc. So don't just throw your meat into the bin, put it into a bit of compost. And as we get into more and more unit style living, apartment living, the ability to have community gardens like this are important to help deal with that waste.
Should we get on with it?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get away from the smell of this bin.
I mean, if you look at the urban reforestation imagery, there's a spade, there's a wheelbarrow, and then there's plants, and then there's the city in the backdrop. That's the vision. The vision is about people coming together and creating a new environment, and it's about working with what is currently in place, the institutional frameworks that are in place. But probably the strongest part about it is actually people taking power back into their everyday living, about the choices and actions that they make every day towards sustainability. And that's the powerful thing about it, is the creativity and innovation and people power behind the vision. That's what's driving it. It's choice, freedom of choice, creativity, and power of the people. I think that it's time for new business to happen. It's time for social enterprise to become the new paradigm. It's time that we don't just consider the shareholder value in things, we also consider social value in things, and community value and environmental value in things. And that's why me, with Urban Reforestation, and the team at Urban Reforestation have created a social enterprise model. And we have lots of social enterprise buddies, such as Ceres and such as Chai Chai and Yabula, just to name a few. They're popping up everywhere. And I think that new business is the way to go, and it's the future if we are to live sustainably on this planet and have a fair go for more people. I think a really strong message to take from what Urban Reforestation is doing is to realise that creative potential that each of us has, and use that creativity to channel and create change in your community. And it's looking at from our experience, it's a really fulfilling thing to do, to feel connected to something that's larger than you, that's larger than, you know, just your everyday. It's taking matters into your own hands, and everyone has the power to do that. And I think that the generation Y and generation below that there's definitely a very strong energy and shift towards taking the power back and using our creative potential and individuality to address some serious environmental problems that we have.